Well, this project started with a book that Dennis Oliver sent me, and the reason he sent it to me because I had a model in his book here, diorama of one of the Tiger tanks. It's an excellent book on Tiger I's and Tiger II tanks of the German Army and Waffen SS in Normandy, 1944. And I had built a Tiger tank that was painted and pretty much finished, and it just needed weathering and a few details. Um, so as you can see here, this is the Tiger that I built. It was one that was destroyed in Normandy, and there's a video on it on YouTube here you can find that I did. It was one of my step-by-steps, and he added it to the book. So that was kind of cool. So it kind of inspired me to do another Tiger tank, and I ended up doing the one from the same unit, the Heavy Battalion 101 in Normandy. And the tank was unique because of the gun mount on the back. So that was something. And then I just picked one of the unit numbers, 311, and use that. So I would recommend this book. It's really, really good. The illustrations are just amazing. Excellent information. So the kit, obviously, as I said, was the Tamiya Mid-Production Tiger. The zimmer was made with a soldering pencil, and I had done articles on this in Fine Scale Modeler, and you can check out in the links below. I'll have this build where I show this other Tiger. But I started the finishing project with weathering, just using my tried and true oil paint wash with burnt umber. And you can see this in a lot of my other videos, but I put the burnt umber in a little container, and then with terpenoid or odorless turpentine, I just start doing a wash. And then it's set on its side like this, so that way I can get the wash into the wheels, around them, etc. And I paint everything on the model, so once everything is painted, I actually paint the road wheels where you can see them, etc. And this wash helps blend everything together as far as the tank goes. And while it's on its side like this, it's an excellent time to do some of the other parts of the tank. As you can see coming up here, keep it on its side, and then I can do a wash inside the zimmet. And everything is, real subtle. You don't want to put a lot because you could always go back and put more. And I actually had put a little bit of a wash in this tank, and I'm actually doing more now. Then with pastel powders mixed up with terpenoid, after I grind them into a little powder, I applied them to the tracks, the spare tracks on the side. And you've got to be real subtle with this because it comes out really dark if you put too much. It looks way off. But if you get it just right, it really adds a good filter to it. Then I do a lot of detail painting of the tools, etc. with acrylic paints. And as I said before, I do this while it's on the tank. It's been easier that way for me, and I think a lot of other modelers are doing it this way now. The wash helps fix up any imperfections of like underneath where you're not going to see anyway. The toe cables are painted, the tools, etc. And I just did this with acrylics, and I used black for the toe cables because I'm going to go over later on and do some weathering on those as well. So it's just a process, step by step, doing more and more layers and detailing over and over. You just don't want a monotone look at all. This actual toe hook I painted with acrylic metallic, it's like a gunmetal gray, and then later on I will weather that, as you can see, with some sponge weathering. And here's the sponge weathering, where I actually just get a piece of a sponge, tear it off, put it in some forceps or some kind of way to hold it. And I just used burnt umber paint, and I started hitting the edges to really give this one a lot of wear around all the corners, edges, places that are going to take a hit from branches, etc. And you can do as much or less as you want. And here's the sponge being cleaned off on paper towel. And then I do the same thing on the turret. Use the sponge and just hit the edges with it. And if you don't like what you did, you can get some turpenoid and just go over it, and it'll just basically make it into a little bit of a wash on there, so you can clean it off. So it's something that's you can work on, and if you like it, keep it. If you don't, take it off and redo it again. It's always something you can do. And here's a little bit of a look of the pastels mixed up in my little containers after they've been ground into powders, how I use them. And it's something that's I've been doing for a long time. It's basically the pigments that you buy. Not that, I'd never say anything bad about pigments. Those are great. You probably get a lot of colors too. But the pastels work the same way. I think they're the same thing, actually. And here I'm putting some more pastels mixed with turpenoid that I've ground up. And sometimes I mix a little bit of green in with the rust color. And I've done this on my step-by-steps just to give it a little bit more life, a little different of the rusty red color, so it's not too stark. And it just helps a lot with the way it looks. And I just apply this a little bit at a time with a mixture of turpenoid into those powders, and you just don't want to put a lot. And that's the basis of the weathering of the spare tracks. In one of my other videos, I used paper printed out of a pattern, camouflage pattern, and I just get this paper, spray it with matte finish, a Tester's dull coat, and once it's really dry, it keeps the ink on there, and I mix it in water and let it get really soft as as you can get it from just being in that water for a fairly long time. And this is kind of a cool technique because you can get a really cool camouflage like Zeblon or material that might be on just laying on a vehicle like I have it here. And then once it's ready to be put on, it's soft enough, then I just test it and make sure it's soft. I'll get some white PVA glue, just put it on the back, smear it around, and that is what's going to hold it in place on the tank. Just with my fingers, I just spread it around, get it ready to apply to the tank. And then just with some tweezers, I'm going to position it on there the way I want it, and that way you can kind of wrinkle it up because it's so soft, and it just works out really well. Once it's dry, you can actually weather it more on top, and this one just came out really nice because it had a little bit of a faded look to it, so I really liked it. So this is something that you could use in all kinds of situations, in a dugout trench, with some of this laying around, vehicles, parts of packs and things like that. You can use it for packs on the back of tanks with tarps and etc. So it's kind of a cool little hack and something you can do. It's very simple. If you've got a computer and a printer, you can do it. And then next I get that gunmetal dark grayish acrylic paint, and I just dry brush the ends of the tracks just to get that metallic look. It may be a little overdone, but I think it adds a little bit to it. And then with a pencil, I can add even more in smaller areas to give that a metallic look wherever the brush is just way too big to use. I just use a pencil like this, and it works out really well. And then the tracks, I'm going to go ahead and do the dry brushing on that with the metallic dark gray metal. A lot of times I'll put more dirt in there, but this one I just kind of left as is. It wasn't really that muddy in Normandy. So, and the figure, the extra figure, is a master box, and I like the smock on this guy, so that's what I painted. And here is the other model I did of the same unit in 48 scale. Alrighty, here's the final model. Tamiya kits, you know, they're just great. There's everybody knows Tamiya is the best, I would say. The build is always great on them, and you don't have to worry about too much fiddling around. So I enjoyed this kit. Like as I said earlier, it was started and stopped, and it was a while before I got it back off the shelf and finished it here. And as I showed in the video, just weathering pretty much, little details here and there. But other than that, it was a fun project. Once again, the Zimrit is passable. And it was something I have done for a long time and had magazine articles in fine scale modeler on it back in probably the 90s. So, and the extra figure here adds a little bit to it. And you know, he's a little different than the way he was comes in the kit. So, the figure in the hatch is from another diorama. I pilfered it from that France scene with the big half track. But other than that, it's finished, and it's another one off the shelf. It's time to move to the next project. So that being said, thanks for watching again, and any comments you have on the build that maybe I left out, please don't hesitate to ask.